live proceedings. Enjoy your viewing and good afternoon.
Assembled and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of the country and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Haya, sasa tuanze tukiwa tayari. Hii mic sito kit. Unakaa. Order number 1. Please order. Order number 1, administration of oath. Abubakar Ahmed Talib.
What religion do you profess?
Honorable Speaker, I, Ali Wario Guyo, together with Honorable Hamisi Chome Abdi, wishes to introduce to you the nominated member for Wiper Democratic Movement, Mr. Abubakar Ahmed Taib.
What religion?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of the Almighty, I, Abu Bakr Ahmed Talib, having been elected a member of the National Assembly, do swear in the name of the Almighty, and I bear the true faith and allegiance to the people of the Republic of Kenya, that I will obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and that I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of Parliament. So help me God. Thank you very much. Thank you. Asante. Yeah, thank you.
Utamwekea mic because ana Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation of members of the County Assembly of Kwale seated in the Speaker's Gallery. The delegation is led by the Speaker, Honorable Seth Mwatela Kamanza. Honorable members, the members are currently undergoing a 5-day induction on their roles and mandates at the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training, CPST, since 4th October 2022. Honorable members, on my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly and wish them fruitful engagements during the course of the induction. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, motion, debate on the address by the President. Third allotted day.
I don't have my... honorable members, I can see the... honorable members, we are going to continue with the debate on the President's speech, and I can see the names of the persons who are ready to speak now. Okay. Member for Kiharu, what's your point of order? I think he needs help with his mic. Oh, your mic is working now.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. This House is very anxious, and our country is in paralysis, Madam Speaker, insofar as the determination of the majority and minority in this House is concerned. The Speaker had indicated that this House was expecting communication from the Chair so that we are able to determine who is the majority and minority, so that, Madam Speaker, we can continue with the very business that brought us to this House. Madam Speaker, I seek your guidance because the country cannot continue to wait in paralysis and this House cannot continue to wait in anxiety. Madam Speaker, I seek for your communication.
Honorable members, hold your horses. We still have until 8 p.m. So the session is not over yet. And now I will call upon a member for... Proceed, now that you're on your feet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we stand guided as your communication. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, this is a House of Records and a House of Procedure. And the last communication that we had from the substantive Speaker was that he is going to deliver a ruling on the issue of the majority and minority on Thursday, the 6th at 2:30 p.m. It's in the Hansard, Madam Speaker. And the Hansard will bear me witness that the Speaker pronounced himself on the floor of the House that he is going to deliver his ruling at 2:30 p.m. And now it is how many? 2:45. It is 2:44 now. We are late by 14 minutes, Madam Speaker. 14 minutes we are late. So, Madam Speaker, unless the ruling is not ready, or unless that the law has taken its course and wisdom has befallen on the leadership of this House, and they have realized that Azimio is the majority, and we move forward, Madam Speaker, so that we can move the country forward, Madam Speaker, so that we don't, as my colleague, the Kiaru MP alluded to, we don't keep the country in paralysis and we don't keep the parliament in anxiety. The rule of law is clear, as the lawyers say. The law is very clear. There are many lawyers in this House, some of them senior lawyers. I think Murangara is here. So the lawyers are here. The law is very clear, Madam Speaker. So can we authoritatively say that the decision has been made in silence, that Azimio is the majority party in the House, and we move forward, Madam Speaker, and we conduct business as it is known in the Parliament, Madam Speaker?
Honorable member, I think you're out of order. You have no power or authority to make a ruling on that point. I think the Honorable Speaker clearly communicated that he shall give his ruling on this session that starts at 2:30 p.m. and ends at 8 p.m. So until such time as we get to 8 p.m., we still have the time. Honorable members, order, honorable members. We are going to proceed with the debate. Honorable members, I have put that issue to a close. We will now proceed to continue with the debate, and you have the floor, member for Langata constituency. It is your turn. Where is order for, okay, there we go.
Switch it on. Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you, having been elected the Deputy Speaker of this House. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Langata for giving me the chance to represent them in this august House. I want to thank our team, Team Jalas, that put up a very big battle, and the battle for Langata was not an easy one. I want to take this opportunity also to thank my party, ODM, and my party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, who supported me all the way to the end. I want to thank the team from Mugumoini Ward, High Rise Ward, South Sea, Nairobi West, and Karen, who most members here are my constituents. Thank you for your support. I want to, again, take this opportunity to thank my family that also was with me in the battle. When we go now to the President's speech, There's one thing I picked that is very key for my constituency, that is the affordable housing. And I'm happy the president himself is coming to Lang'ata this week for the launch of 4,500 houses, and that is in Zone B of Nyayo High Rise. I want to take this opportunity to tell the people of Lang'ata to be ready, that this project that has taken long will finally come to books. The second thing that I want to talk about is actually the Hustlers Fund. I would want the Hustlers Fund to be given to the members of this house to take care of it, to be in charge of the Hustlers Fund. We campaigned with the hustlers. We know them better than anyone else. We were with them. I want also to talk about saving that the president talked about. He talked about saving, which really, if the Hustler Fund is coming, let the savings also be directed to the hustlers themselves. They will save themselves and save the money by their own. Let it not be given to anybody again. For Lang'ata again, I want to talk about the projects that have stalled. We have a case in South Sea Market that the land has already been allocated. They're just waiting for a few confirmations and a few approvals from the county. I want to request the county government so that this can be expedited so that the work in that market can begin in earnest. I also want to thank the team that has been pushing for Mugumoini market to start operating. Chairman Alois, I know you're watching this moment, and you said and asked me so that we can push for the market of Mugumoini, and the lawyers who are here to help us also push so that the small battles that we're having in court can also come to an end so that it can be done and over with. I also want to take this opportunity to tell Lang'ata people that the issue of water, and anytime you mention the word Lang'ata, everybody talks about water. The Northern Corridor grid is already being worked on, and we hope that during this and during my regime as the Member of Parliament of Lang'ata, the water issue will finally come to an end when the Northern Corridor infrastructure is finished with and we are gridded into it. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity also to ask the Speaker in his wisdom, wherever he is, that later when he comes here, he makes the best ruling, that Azimio is the majority in this House. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Asante. I've donated my remainder time to Salasia. He had requested me to donate some 2 minutes to Salasia.
No.
He had something wanted. Yes.
You're out of order.
Salasia is here.
Member
Thank
for
you.
Lang'ata, you're out of order. I will now call upon Member for Kigumo. Member for Kigumo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Joseph Kamau Munyoro. I'm from Kigumo constituency. I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate the Honorable Speaker, Moses Wetangula. I would also like to congratulate you, Madam Speaker, on your election as the Deputy Speaker. Also, I take the opportunity to congratulate our President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, and the Deputy Rigathi Gachagua on the election. Secondly, I would like to thank the people of Kigumo for giving me this opportunity to serve them as their representative in this 13th Parliament. People from Kahumbu, Mudhithi, Kegumo, Kenyona, and Kangare wards, I thank you, and I promise you that the election that we conducted and you gave me the votes overwhelmingly, I do not take it for granted, and I'll endeavor to serve you and assure you that all the promises I made will be gotten. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank my family, my dear wife and children, for the support that they gave me during the campaigns, and also my extended family, my brothers and sisters, my mother in Mareira, for giving me the support that was required when we were campaigning for me to be able to get to this parliament. I assure them that our family name is in safe hands. I would like to tell the people of Kigumo that we have projects that we are following up. We have Kangari Market that we know is halfway done. I assure them that we'll be looking at it and making sure that it's complete. We are launching Modidi Market. We'll do groundbreaking next week. And I assure them that all the projects that we have in the constituency, we will be able to make sure they are completed during my term. I would also like to assure them that we've spoken about bursaries, the NGCDF, and I'd like to thank the President for mentioning it here and assuring us that we shall be able to have the kitty so that we can be able to educate our children. We know we have a lot of them at home, and we know some of these kids can only be helped by being paid for school fees by the kitty. And we assure them that we'll do that without favor, and it will get to the people who will be needy. To comment on the President's speech, I think one of the things that really touched us as people of Kigumo is we come from an agricultural constituency. We have tea, we have coffee, we do dairy farming, horticulture, and a lot of us are touched by farming. So the issue of fertilizer subsidy has really helped us because that is directly money that has been put in people's pockets by the President's order to have the money, the cost of fertilizer reduced. I would also like to ask the President, because I saw him meeting with the Tea Board of Kenya yesterday, that we also look at the market as we get the farmers, especially tea farmers, so that we do away with the cartels that control the pricing. That since he's decided that we go with a brand that is Kenya, we stop having blends. He looks at having a better market for our tea farmers so that we can put more money into the pocket. I would also like to thank him for mentioning the Hustler Fund, and we are waiting for the kitty because our young men and women are at home and most of them are jobless. Most of them don't have capital that would be able to help them start their businesses and run so that they can be able to feed their children. He also mentioned the issue of water. One of the things that is really a problem, especially in the lower areas of our constituency, is water problems. I would like to be involved as much as possible because if you're increasing the water supply from 60% to 80%, the constituencies that suffer most should be at the front line. And the lower area of Kegumo, especially in Kahumbu, parts of Modidi, and also I know in areas of Kangare, we will need to be supported and make sure that we are able to get water. We have the issue of electricity, he also mentioned, and we want to connect our people so that people can start their businesses, even in the Juakali sector, and they are able to run and be able to get an income from their businesses. Madam Speaker, I'll also mention the issue of interest rates and especially the Fuliza issue. We know a lot of people have those loans on their phones. Some of them nowadays can't transact using M-Pesa, and the lower secretary is coming into the House of Parliament so that they are asked questions. We have the Mau Mau Road that is being constructed. We've had issues with it, and I think because it traverses more than one constituency, it would be fair for the CS to answer one question instead of us, each member of parliament, asking a question to the CS on their own, and then they have to prepare an answer for each one of us. So that should be supported, and any legal framework that will come into this house for us to be able to actualize that one, I can assure the President of our support. I will finish by saying that coming from an agricultural constituency, we will still need more to be done for our agriculture. there is market for our house avocados. We need to be assured, because we need a law that, because we have a somewhat of a cartel in the avocado industry, so that everybody can be able to sell their avocados directly without having to go through brokers, and we assure you that we get more money for our avocados. I will finish with saying that any legislation that will come into this house, that will be to support and actualize the promises that have been made by the UDA government and our president. So long as it is serving our people, they can count on my support, and also assure our Kigumo people that their interest of being represented will be well done. Legislative functions, I will make sure that laws that are passed here also support and favor us, and assure them that we shall oversight the government. I thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member for Dagoretti South.
Madam Speaker, I'll take this very early opportunity first to congratulate you. Madam Speaker, you are legendary. You are one of the few Kenyans that I know who have been able to serve in all the three arms of government. We saw you do some amazing work in the executive. We know you did some great leadership in the judiciary. And you're here in the legislative arm of government as the Deputy Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity on behalf of the people of Dagoretti South to profusely congratulate you on ascending to the very high office of Madam Deputy Speaker in this House. In the same breath, Madam Speaker, I'll congratulate the Right Honorable Speaker, Moses Wetangula, on being elected overwhelmingly as the Speaker of the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, this is my first address in this House on a substantive issue, so I take this opportunity to thank the people of Dagoretti South constituency who decided that Kweli, it's time for us to get back to Bunge and do that which we had started in the last term. Madam Speaker, on this issue of the speech by the President, I wanted to just concretize it into the thematic areas, Madam Speaker. I was able to note that the speech by the President was succinct. It was short, it was sweet, and it was to the point. And after all was said and done, out of the many paragraphs, one is able to summarize it into 7 very profound thematic areas. His Excellency the President was able to speak on agriculture and food security and the grand plan that he has. But not only is he speaking about it, he has already actioned it through executive action, because we saw him moving our subsidies from consumption to production, Madam Speaker. And on that alone, I want to commend His Excellency the President. This is a man who was elected on the back of a wave of a campaign that was driven by hustlers in this country. And the President was careful to recognize that there is a sector called the micro, small, and medium, in connecting the drive on medium and small enterprises with the TVET training and the installation of institutions that will be used for incubation and for apprenticeship for these people who are in the micro, medium, and small enterprises, Madam Speaker. For people of us who are representing constituencies that are in urban areas, we took note of the great investment in the Hustler Fund and the Enterprise Fund, which we know is going to spur development in this area. Madam Speaker, I pride myself as the women representative of the people of the Dagoretti South constituency. I am a feminist, Mr. Speaker, and admittedly so. So I was very excited when His Excellency the President took up the women agenda. We know what the plans are. We saw them when he was signing charters with the women of this country. Not only did he sign a charter, he transformed it into an agenda in his manifesto, which ended up becoming the Kenya Kwanza plan, which shall be implementing. I commit, as a feminist and the women representative of the people of Dagoretti South, I commit to support any legislative agenda that will push the women agenda in this House. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President was keen to bring up the issue on the health agenda. Each member of parliament here will tell you that when they are doing their clinics on Monday morning, the biggest issue that they have to contend with is how to pay bills. How to pay bills for hospitals, how to pay bills for the diseased. Madam Speaker, this country cannot afford to continue paying for health out of pocket. When His Excellency the President will champion bills to reform NHIF in this House, Madam Speaker, I shall be a champion. I will be championing for the reform of the health sector, for the reform of health financing, and for that I commend the President for putting it in his speech. Madam Speaker, we have been told that there is a task force coming up to review CBC. So when it came up as an agenda on the President's speech, I was excited because some of us have children, some who are in standard 6 this year. We want to know what does CBC mean when a young child who is 12 years old is taken to a high school and has to be in school with people who are probably 19 years, some 18 years, and this is a young student, probably age 13 or 12. So when we go into this issue of education, Madam Speaker, I know even this House shall be involved in recommending some changes to this CBC form of education, and this task force will be one of the things that will be a highlight in the life of this Parliament. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President applied himself on the issue of ICT and the digital economy. Madam Speaker, this is the sector that brought me up. And I would like to report to this House that in the world that we are living today, ideas are the currency. Data is the currency. If we do not take note of the new and emerging economies in the digital economy and the creative economy, Madam Speaker, then we shall not be fit for purpose in a time such as this. So, Madam Speaker, it is my joy and celebration that His Excellency the President, from this very important speech, was able to address the issues of the creative economy, of the digital economy, the question as to whether telcos should continue operating as banks, whether they are regulatable when they are operating under where they're being regulated under Communications Authority, while they are also conducting monetary business that should be oversighted and regulated at CBK, is an issue of concern. The issue of Fuliza and digital loans, Madam Speaker, is critical. We cannot have a country that is listed as people who cannot pay loans. Madam Speaker, the idea of moving CRB to a credit system was very welcome as an idea from His Excellency the President, and I know this House shall have a bite on this issue, and I know our members who are representing Kenyans who have been listed, who have been condemned, shall be contributing to this, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for me, the housing issue is critical. I hail from this city. It is the city that brought me up. I do not know of any other place as people retreat to their rural areas. Nairobi is my ushago, so to say, Madam Speaker. So when this issue of housing was brought up by housing and settlement was brought up by His Excellency the President, I was keen to know what he has to say. Madam Speaker, I picked out a great idea of aggregation, of specialization, of standardization that speaks to the people of Dagoretti South, who are world-renowned as artisans, as Juakali sector idea leaders. Madam Speaker, if you drive on your way from Adams Arcade, from the Adams Arcade roundabout all the way to Karen, you shall see the streets lined up on both sides by people who are artisans, Juakali artisans. These are people who will benefit from this housing and settlement plan, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, because there isn't much time to lay out everything I wanted to say, I will leave it at the issue of corruption, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member Fatuma from Migori did say that His Excellency the President had nothing to say. Madam Speaker, that speech was laden with issues that, if they are addressed, would address the main issue of corruption. But I want to remind us that even as we address corruption, we need to remind us what Mother Teresa tells us, that whatever you resist persists. We cannot keep glorifying corruption by giving it a high pedestal, Madam Speaker. Let us start speaking about integrity. Let us make institutions that are titled with the word integrity. Let us stop glorifying corruption as a name. The more we glorify corruption, the more it persists. Madam Speaker, it is upon us to align ourselves with integrity and ethics and morals, but not to keep glorifying corruption. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and I will take this opportunity to congratulate each and every single member of Parliament who has been elected, and I wish you a good...
Thank you, Member for Dagoretti, and thank you for your kind words. I will now call Member for Suna West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute today in this house. First, I want to congratulate you for being elected the Deputy Speaker of the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, before I say something about today's agenda, let me thank the people of Suna West, the great people of Suna West, for electing me for the second time to represent them in this very important house. I want to thank the youths, the religious leaders, professionals, the business community, all those who worked down 24 hours to ensure that my second victory is one which I'm not even taken to court to be challenged. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, as I continue to contribute in this today's motion, there are several areas that I want to mention, more particularly about the youths. Madam Speaker, we are talking about hustlers' money according to the President's speech. But hustlers are, some are old men, some are old women, some are youths. But particularly, I want us to emphasize on the issues of youths of this country, Madam Speaker. Many were promised that they will be pesa mfukoni, some were to be given 6,000 every month. But now that all of them are lamenting, if you read the book of Habakkuk, they don't know where, if there is money in their pockets, or at the end of the month they are going to get the 6,000. Can't we formulate a policy that we have a youth commission that will ensure that if small and medium enterprises money is given, youths are considered, because one, they don't have the startup capital, and two, they don't have major representative in both houses. So, Madam Speaker, I'll request this House, as we move forward and discuss this particular speech by the President, let us, as legislators, emphasize on the issues of youth so that they can be part and parcel of this country. Madam Speaker, on the universal health coverage, yes, we want to try to increase being covered by NHIF, but let us also consider the standards of health in this country. Madam Speaker, we have very few referral hospitals. And if these hospitals, we don't increase the number to every county having a well-equipped referral hospital, we will continue losing the citizens of this country simply because they cannot access a standardized and health services. On the same note, Madam Speaker, we may talk of universal health coverage, but what about the health workers? Do they have a good representation? Because as we talk now, the county governments, the 47 counties, are not managing our health workers well. This House should consider forming health commission so that they can deal with the issues of health workers in the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as well, on the same note, I want to talk about infrastructure. In the President's speech, he did not cover it. The people of Suna West were expecting a lot in terms of infrastructure. We have a major road in Suna West called Kababu Pinyu Adera Road. It is still unusable. And we were expecting a lot of money was to be put in infrastructure so that we can benefit from this money to make this road to bitumen standard. Madam Speaker, we have civil servants in this country. As we all know that the living standard now, the cost of living is so high, but the salary remains the same. We need to look into our civil servants. We need to look into our men and women in uniform when we are discussing economy, because in their circumstances, very few people are thinking about them, but the living standard, the cost of living is very high in Kenya today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about education. Our education system is confusing. Let us formulate policies which can guarantee standardized education. Today, even the professionals are not very sure of what is going to happen tomorrow. January is just next door, but we don't know which system we are going to use. But above all, Madam Speaker, the government has tried over a period of time on the issues of free secondary education. But the question is, the money allocated to each student in secondary school, is it sufficient as per the current situation? Something needs to be done about that. And apart from that, what we need also to do concerning school fee, Madam Speaker. Now the price of unga is 200 and something shillings. And principals are buying maize from the same market. And the allocation which was done 10 years ago still remain constant. Are we doing favor? Are we doing justice to these schools and our students, or we are losing it, Madam Speaker? So as legislators, I believe we can do something to salvage this country. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the issue which was mentioned of KRA. World all over, I've been doing some small research. There is no friendly tax collector. A tax collector is a tax collector. The best thing which can be done is to come up with good policies where those who are paying tax can see or feel the value for their tax. By doing so, nobody will be complaining about paying tax. We need to see good roads, good hospitals, salary increment, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of security, what are we doing about our people who are not secured? Are we increasing the number of vehicles to police officers? Are we increasing the salary for our men and women in uniform? Are we jailing criminals, or we are letting them free? Our court should do something about people who are bringing insecurity in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally, I want to congratulate each and every member of this 13th Parliament for being elected. But I want to remind them that as we are being celebrated now, the next day we are going to be the enemies of the public. So we need to do things which will be remembered with. Whether you are in this house or outside this house, you must develop your people to an extent that when you are not in this parliament, people will still talk about you years after you have existed positions of leadership. Madam Speaker, I want to thank my party ODM and the party leader Raila Amolo Odinga for giving me an opportunity to serve the people of Suna West as an elected member of parliament through party. Last time I was in this parliament as an independent member of parliament, and the challenges I faced, I hope the current independent members of parliament are not going to face them. Therefore, we need to strengthen parties so that democracy can prevail in this country. We need people like Raila Amolo Odinga to be respected, to be given opportunity as the few statements we have in Africa today. Madam Speaker, allow me to say this. As we are talking about Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, we must know that there are people who contributed to the liberation we are enjoying today. Sometimes back there are areas who could not even develop themselves because there was no devolution. Some people died because of fighting for devolution. I can recall very well Dr. Odhiambo Mbai, who was killed because he was agitating and fighting for the people of Kenya to be liberalized for the second time. Madam Speaker, nobody was mentioned as a candidate for devolution ministry. That worries me because my background, I'm the last mayor of Migori, and I know what devolution can do. So therefore, something needs to be done so that we have a very powerful devolution minister so that we can strengthen our devolve unit for people to get services, even if you are in government or you are not in government. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
What's your point of order? Member for Elders. All right, no, so it's not, I thought I saw you had a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important debate. First of all, may I take this opportunity to congratulate you, the true Gladys Boss Cholet, for being among the few lady representatives to the 13th Parliament. Secondly, I also want to congratulate all the members here for having been elected to the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, seeking an elective position is the most difficult job and sometimes the most sought after job. And this is why I want to welcome my colleagues to the 13th Parliament and enjoy both the pressures and pleasures of Parliament. And I'm sure in due course you will realize that there are certain things that we must not take for granted. Madam Speaker, going back to the speech, but before I go back to the speech, I also want to thank, as the representative of the people of Elders, Madam Speaker, one of the things that I've enjoyed in this speech, and I must appreciate one time with current actually president, who were classified as the young legislators, and we benefited from a program called the Young Legislators Program, sponsored by the U.S. Embassy. And we went around globetrotting, actually, to benefit from the benefits of being a newly elected young member of Parliament. That was 1998. We were there in America, visited over 18 states, and that really opened the door for us. One of the things that I appreciate and experience very good about this particular speech is respect for the separation of institutional roles. For those of us who are there and participated in the midwifing of the current constitution, one of the things that the August 2010 constitution actually emphasized is respect for the rule of law, and the respect for the rule of law is anchored in our constitution. Madam Speaker, you are a lawyer of many years' experience. The opening chapter, Article 1, emphasizes on representation and clearly spells out the nexus between representation and sovereignty. And that is one article that all of us must accept and pursue to the letter. Because at times you will realize, you will be told, somebody will invoke Article 95, Article 96, and say the role of member of Parliament is not clearly defined. And even this animal called SRC up to now is yet to accept the role of the member of Parliament. It's not only limited to representation, no. The member of Parliament is an embodiment of everything in the Kenyan society. And that's why, Madam Speaker, if you want the best diplomats, members of Parliament, if you are the best economic advisors, are the members of Parliament. And in this country, when we talk about Kenya as a premier nation, and one of the things that was emphasized by His Excellency the President in the speech was development of the different sectors, in particular the economic sector, the security sector, the infrastructure sector, the education sector. All these requires an informed, knowledgeable, persistent member of Parliament through legislation, through oversight. And this is why, for me, Madam Speaker, without CDF, and I'll ask my colleagues here to accept this, and we should say no CDF, no representation. And I think that should be the slogan. Because without CDF, there's no need of being a member of Parliament. And this has been history. You need to go back to where we were in the 90s without CDF. And the member of Parliament was a miserable human being. What has given life, human dignity, and face to representation is the presence of CDF. Please, whatever you do, regardless of our different political persuasions, CDF must remain an integral part of our day-to-day activity. And that's why I appreciate when His Excellency talked about retention of CDF. And I'm sure how that will happen is up to all of us to pursue it to the letter. Otherwise, dictators from the Treasury mandarins, they've always been there. They are not loyal to you, they are loyal to their interests. But for you, your loyalty is directly to those who have brought you to this house. And that is a very important ingredient, actually, in your life. Madam Speaker, coming back to Kenya, Kenya is not I remember just some few days before the final results actually was announced, the atmosphere was pregnant with so many rumors and speculations. The people were saying what will happen. Tribal advice here, so many challenges. But one thing that we must appreciate is the resilience of the people of Kenya, the maturity of our democracy, and Kenya, not only as just a country by the name, as a premier republic. A premier republic in which form? Today, in Ethiopia, an eventful day is happening. Why? The effects of Safaricom diplomacy. The effects of Safaricom diplomacy is now being felt in the entire Horn of Africa. And we're going to be very proud of that event, because very soon, the benefits of Safaricom will be felt all over. Equally, Madam Speaker, Kenya is an economic hub. Kenya is a security hub, it's a diplomatic hub. These are things that we must appreciate as citizens and as the representatives of the people. Madam Speaker, the other day, this country was voted as the best in human resource capital. What do we need to benefit from this is our diaspora diplomacy. I know very soon there will be an inclusion of the Hassala diplomacy as one of the tenets of our foreign policy. But before that is domesticated. The diaspora diplomacy has greatly contributed and improved, greatly contributed to our economy. It's something that each one of us here as a parliamentarian, as part of our parliamentary diplomacy, must be prepared to engage in. And this is why, Madam, in this era of representation, if you look at another jurisdiction, in other democracies, parliamentarians are the best diplomats. In the Kenya context, the parliamentarian is not regarded as somebody well-informed, simply because of the basic definitions that other people who are not friendly to parliament have given to parliament. Madam Speaker, one thing, the issue of drought, His Excellency the President has alluded to this, but one thing that colleagues from northern Kenya actually must accept and pursue, the era of food relief syndrome must come to an end. We need irrigation. We need water, Madam. We need to revive Kenya Meat Commission. We need to revive the Kenya Livestock Marketing Authority. These things have died over the years. Madam Speaker, in 1968, Kenya was a leading beef exporter to the whole world. Today, we get our beef from Botswana. In 1968, Kenya was a leading donor nation. In fact, our GDP in 1968 was the same as South Korea. Today, the GDP of South Korea is 50 times that of Kenya. And yet they have no natural resource. These are things that we must deal with. These are things that we must address as citizens of the Republic of Kenya. And finally, Madam, I know we are approaching a very difficult time because of the rise in inflation, the economic stagnation, Madam Speaker, the unemployment. And these are things that really, if we put our heads together, we can easily salvage. We are surrounded by countries that have had serious security challenges, and that's why Kenya remains a very important component of the international community, and that's why I believe, in their own wisdom, the international community decided to elect Kenya actually as a member of the United Nations Security Council. That is not a mere achievement. It's a serious achievement which we must be prepared to jealously protect. Madam, I know this is the beginning of this session. We'll begin to learn each other, we'll begin to appreciate each other, but my final word on this is, remember, as members of the 13th Parliament, we are one family. Regardless of our political persuasion, we are one family, and outside there we'll be treated as members of one family. Whatever we do, let's engage soberly, let's engage with dignity, let's also appreciate the role. One time I was the youngest member, today I'm among the oldest members of Parliament here, Madam, and time changes. And these are realities that we must expect. And appreciate that my contributions, my experience will add value to you. You are coming in will also value to you, and ultimately we'll have the best representation in the 13th Parliament. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Garissa County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Amina, Women Representative, Garissa County. First and foremost, I would like to thank the people of Garissa County for voting me in. I'm a desert flower, a young lady, and a humanitarian before I became a politician. Thank you. Congratulations for being elected the Deputy Speaker. As a woman, I'm proud of you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The speech was short, concise, and to the point. The speech was largely people-centered, and it was about Wanjiku and reflected the aspiration of the new president in charge of the lives of the ordinary citizens. However, Madam Speaker, there were notable gaps. Million plus citizens in more than 23 counties are being affected by the drought, more so the people of Garissa County, Madam Speaker. And the larger northern Kenya are staring at death and starvation, Madam Speaker. Mothers and children are worst affected, especially the lactating mothers and infants. The speech ought to have usually centered around this recurring problem that affects the people of the North every year. The situation is grim, Madam Speaker, horrific and despairing, and people are dying each day because of hunger. Sometimes some things needs to be done to save the lives of millions. I expected His Excellency to touch on these serious issues since he was addressing us as the people's representatives. Under our Constitution, the state is responsible of the lives of all Kenyans. Efforts must be made to ensure no Kenyan will lose his life because of hunger. I must also commend the government for its little but necessary effort it has initiated in sending relief food to the people affected. More need to be done. I thank His Excellency Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, aka Rigiji, for leading this. We hope the new cabinet will address this. Another important issue that His Excellency the President forgot is the good message of unity in our country. He is no doubt the president of 50 plus Kenyans, both of those who voted him and those who did not vote for him. Without a commitment to the unity of the nation, the government may not succeed in its endeavors. The unity of our people is paramount, Madam Speaker. The president is a symbol of national unity. Under our Constitution, we pray for him and pray for our nation as we expect him to unify Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Also, the president said he is a believer of the rule of law, and I believe that Azimio is the majority, and I hope the role of law, the law will be respected, and Azimio should be the majority. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm proud as a woman to have a deputy woman, deputy speaker, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, member for Garissa County, and thank you for being brief. Members, I think the reason why we had the procedural motion on limitation was to ensure that as many members as possible have an opportunity to speak, particularly those who are making their maiden speeches. I can still see their people who has already spoke, and their names are here. So if you could kindly pull out your cards. I have a very good memory in case you think I forgot. Yeah, like member for Imwa Dikir, I saw your name here. You're not supposed to be there. You spoke already. I think Kigumo, also pull out your card. So I'll find you out. I'll find you out. So now we'll call member for Elgeyo Marakwet County. Member for Elgeyo Marakwet County, proceed.
Mike, please. Okay, thank you. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, at least to make my maiden speech. I thank you, and first and foremost, I also want to thank God for giving me this opportunity, and also to thank the people of Elgeyo Marakwet for electing me into this august house. Madam Speaker, I want also to, okay, Sasa. Madam Speaker, my journey to the august house was not easy. I come from Elgeyo Marakwet County, and you know it was the bedroom of UDA party, but the people of Elgeyo Marakwet believed in me and voted for me overwhelmingly, and I want to thank God because of that. So I also appreciate them. Madam Speaker, I come from a county that has so many challenges, and one of the challenges in Elgeyo Marakwet is the issue of agriculture. People of Elgeyo Marakwet, Madam Speaker, most of them, 100% of the residents of Elgeyo Marakwet are farmers. They are either keeping domestic animals or they are farming. Madam Speaker, the issue that has been affecting the people of Elgeyo Marakwet recently is the issue of fertilizer, and I want to applaud the President for talking about the subsidizing the inputs of farmers. So I want to commend that, and I believe that going forward, the life of a farmer is going to be as rosy as the life of somebody who lives in the city and enjoying what comes from the farm without knowing the hustle and the bustle that the farmer is going through. Madam Speaker, I also want to assure my people of Elgeyo Marakwet that I'm going to make sure that we handle the issue of banditry in the Kerio Valley. Madam Speaker, the people in Kerio Valley don't enjoy peace because there are people who have taken law into their hands and they live with firearms the way they want. So, Madam Speaker, going forward, I believe that in this house, through this house, I'm going to make sure that I legislate properly and make sure that we're going to live like any other person living there. The issue of banditry in Kerio Valley, Madam Speaker, is about time that is categorized like terrorism, because a bandit is more than a terrorist. Madam Speaker, if you can remember last year, the people who died in the Kerio Valley, who are killed by people who have illegal firearms in their hands, are more than the people who are killed by Al-Shabaab maybe in the past 5 years. So the Al-Shabaab and the bandits are all in the same category. And through this house, Madam Speaker, I'll ensure that we are going to categorize those people as terrorists. And probably it will come to an end. The issue of banditry will come to an end. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about, I also want to assure the people of Elgeyo Marakwet that we had two projects, the Aror and Kimwarer Dam projects, Madam Speaker, that the previous government ensured that they massacred those projects at the expense of the benefits of the people of Elgeyo Marakwet. I'll make sure that the same projects are brought back so that it can help the people of Elgeyo Marakwet to do irrigation, to irrigate and be able to farm their crops, Madam Speaker. Allow me also, Madam Speaker, to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya for ensuring that he has the issue of mamambogas and the hustlers. This country, Madam Speaker, the gap between the rich and the poor is widening day and night. Because the poor people get poor daily. Through the Hustler Fund, I believe that the people of Elgeyo Marakwet are going to benefit and be able to use the revolving fund and ensure that they improve their lives. Madam Speaker, since I know so many people are already queuing here to give their maiden speech, I would wish to donate the extra time that I will that I still have, so that even my member of parliament from Marakwet will find time to give his maiden speech. Madam Speaker, so I want to appreciate so much and thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, you know, if you come to me and have a side talk and request for time to speak, then you're automatically disqualified, because I do not want to give the impression that if you come and side talk me, you get an opportunity. So if you come here, you're disqualified. Yeah, so I think, yes. Member for Nairobi County. To inquire if your card is working, then you ask the clerk or the sergeant at arms. Okay, because I don't know how to do it myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Allow me to first start by congratulating you for being elected as the Deputy Speaker of this august House. I also want to congratulate our Speaker, Honorable Moses Wetangula, for being elected, and to congratulate every member of Parliament that made it back. It is said that we had the highest number of returns in Parliament, so I want to congratulate all the members. And I also want to congratulate my worthy opponent, Millicent Omanga. We had an amazing campaign together. We did not tread on each other's toes, and she accepted and conceded defeat, and at the same time, congratulate me. I think that's the kind of politics that we want. While I stand here, I want to congratulate also the country. Kenya as a country has actually come and grown in democracy. We have had a peaceful election. There are lots of people that were hurt by this election, over 7 million people. But I want to say that we stood for the democracy, and that democracy is the respect that we all have. The people that supported Raila Amolo Odinga and the Azimio fraternity, the respect that we have for democracy, and I want to congratulate Kenyans for that peaceful election. We're a model for the entire world. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Nairobi voters, those who voted for me, those who didn't vote for me, and those who didn't show up to vote. I want to say that we understand that there might have been a lot of voter apathy, and that is something that we as leaders will strive to work for, to strive to make you understand that voting is an important exercise. 8 million people did not show up to vote, and that should be a concern to every elected leader. Now we are here to discuss the presidential debate. What I would like to say is, while we're looking at the presidential debate, the one thing, not the presidential debate, the presidential speech, I would like to first congratulate the president for being sworn in as the president of this country. And while I looked at the speech and I heard the speech, Madam Speaker, the one thing that I say is that this country, after an election, we try to come together. And today, as we sit here and we discuss the presidential speech, I want to say that the president talked about and touched on a number of issues. For me, it's not about whether it was a long speech or a short speech. What I took back, continue the programs that they had in the 12th Parliament. The programs like housing, the problems like food for security, infrastructure, and I believe that that kind of continuity is important. As a woman representative, when I came into office, I found projects that my predecessor had done but not completed, and I continued with them. So that is very important. We recently accompanied the president as he was launching a housing project. So that is a project that started in the last administration where he was the deputy president, and it's a project that he wants to continue. I like the fact that he actually spoke to the fact that the rental income will be low and that the people will be able to afford the houses. Nairobi has got a slum in every corner. The people of Nairobi want better housing. That was part of the agenda, the 4 agendas of the government, and I believe that continuity of programs that are good will be very favorable for this country. The area that I have a problem when it comes to food security is our rush for GMOs. I believe that the whole world, if you go to Europe right now, the most priciest commodities are commodities that are organic. So when we start thinking of GMOs, I believe that we should start trading slowly. Much as we want to feed our people, we have to make sure that we understand that as a country, we want to be also able to not just feed ourselves, but to export our products. We have to think twice, and we have to educate the people, because with the rise in cancers, if we rush to GMOs, we might end up also having a situation where we're increasing our medical costs, and we also have UHC as a big program for this country. Madam Speaker, when I think of the idea of saving, I saw that the President talked about the fact that when you retire, your NSSF contributions will not be sufficient for you to retire at the rate of 200 shillings. He talked about 2 shillings and then 1 shilling coming from the state. That is very good. But at the same time, what we have to realize that if we don't handle the big elephant in the room, which is corruption, then we will be faced with a situation where people are saving and the money is being siphoned out and stolen and not invested. When you have housing, I believe that when we save for retirement, one of the things that we should offer our citizens is affordable housing. We see a lot of citizens that have worked very hard and they can hardly live on the retirement benefit that they get from the government. When it comes to the borrowings that we have in this country, the president touched on reducing the budget by over 300 billion and ensuring that our debt repayment, the excess that we have to borrow every year of 900 billion is reduced by 300 billion. That is a good initiative, but then we have to ask ourselves, where are we going to find this money? For me, I believe that this country loses so much more than the 300 billion to corruption. So while we're strengthening our institutions, like we're strengthening the judiciary, we're strengthening the police, we're giving them budgets so that they can sustain themselves, we've got to want to deal with corruption. An area that I had hoped that the president would have looked into is for investment and investor confidence. This country right now makes it very difficult for people to actually invest and bring money into the country. You have a situation where if you want to deposit any money, the maximum that you're allowed to deposit is $10,000. A lot of Kenyans have got money outside of this country, and they cannot come and bring this money into the country, which we desperately need. I believe that we should allow some kind of amnesty to bring in the money and remove that obstacle where you have to deposit only 10,000 and provide sufficient documentation for it. The problem is that is stifling a lot of people coming into this country to make investments. I believe that not every money that comes into this country, over $10,000, could be stolen money, but we're making it very difficult for people to actually come into this country to invest because of the red tape that we have. Kenya as a country, I want to say that we are blessed, but we have a situation right now which is drought. And drought and the interventions that we need from the government, I mean, it is sad to see that right now, Kenyans in so many parts of this country, children are dying from malnutrition, children are dying because their parents cannot afford to give them healthy, nutritious food, and people are dying because there is actually no food in the country. So while we talk about the fact that this country does not have enough food, I think the most important thing that we have to address as a country is also family planning. At the moment, we do not have enough family planning in this country. We do not buy commodities. Family planning is dependent on donors. Every country has to plan its population. And in Kenya, we have failed to plan our population. In the 1960s, when Tom Mboya was asked by the BBC, what are your programs for your country? The first thing he said was we have to look at our population, because for us to grow our economy, we have to make sure that we also manage our population. It is really, really sad to see a number of women having children, not because they want children, but because they did not have access to the information on family planning, they did not have access to the commodities. And then these women have children, and then they're condemned to abject poverty. So for me, I know that we say we're a Christian country, but I want you to understand that even God himself was a family planner because he believes in family planning. And in the cycle of a woman, there is a period where a woman cannot have a child. So for me, I think as a country, we need to plan our population so that we can actually look after our environment and also protect the citizens of this country to be able to prosper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the presidential address.
Thank you. Member for Kandara. Member for Kandara. After the member for Kandara, then you will get what you're asking for.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to congratulate you on your election by this House as our Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Having said that, I also wanted to congratulate your deputy, Madam Honorable Gladys Shorey, for being elected as the deputy. May I also then go further to congratulate each and every member of this House for a very hard job to ensure that you are elected to this House. Mr. Speaker, I then go to congratulate my colleagues, the women members elected from the 29 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, that have agreed to elect women members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, we are 29. I recognize that we lost 8 women by failure to retain the last House. We were 23. I was the chair of that caucus. Now we have 29. We hope to retain and get an addition. Yes, we do appreciate that those constituencies that continue to elect women, and specifically my constituency, Kandara constituency, for giving me a 3rd honorable term to serve them, Mr. Speaker, I truly will remain grateful. It is an unusual situation for a woman to be elected 3 terms, particularly from where we come from. We are still very conservative, and therefore Kandara constituency has demonstrated progressive thinking and action towards political development. Thank you. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for seeing it fit to appoint me as the Cabinet Secretary, Water, Irrigation, Sanitation and Irrigation, subject to the approval of the House. And I truly, subject to the approval of this House. It's a very important process, and nobody should take the House for granted, even though we have received appointment. And I will look forward to appearing before the relevant committee. Thank you. Thank you for those who have said that we will approve. I truly will appreciate that. Let me make some contribution to the address of because I know I may not have much time if I'm approved by this House, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to contribute to the address by His Excellency. And for the new members who may not know me, my name is Alice Muthoni Wahome, MP for Kandara constituency, and Kandara is in Murang'a for record purposes. Mr. Speaker, I think it is important to read this address, and I know we listened to the address of His Excellency the President. One key thread that has come out for me is that he is speaking about ensuring that he will run a government that is transparent, a government that is accountable, and the role of this House is to hold the government to account. And therefore, for His Excellency to come out in his own address to uphold the House, to continue to urge the House to ensure that it undertakes its role of holding the government to check and to accountability, is something that we would want to take home. Mr. Speaker, the President has also said that he hopes his legislative proposal from his government will receive a bipartisan approach, bipartisan debate, noting that whatever proposals are brought by the government are proposals for the good and the public interest of the people of Kenya. And therefore, I think it is important that as legislators, we isolate politics from development, and therefore we agree that we can debate, we can disagree as we have done before, we can in fact even haggle and push, But noting that we are legislators, we have a duty to ensure that the government delivers on the promises that it has made. Of course, one key issue is that we did promise as a coalition that we will look at the economy from a bottom-up approach. And therefore, we would expect that the government will continue to look at projects, programs that will ensure that it lifts the people from the bottom upwards and ensuring that the economy where it is hurting most is addressed as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, the address by the President also speaks to reducing the borrowing of this country, and particularly the President seems to detest the fact that the country has found itself borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, no country can be proud if they are borrowing, instead of putting money to development, to production, to industry development, we are borrowing to meet our recurrent expenditure, and therefore appreciate the fact that that has been picked up very early in this government's term. I have also looked at something relevant to the portfolio that have been appointed for, that is ensuring that there is access to water, current water coverage, or access to water being 60%, and that the government hopes that we shall push it to 80%, and we target to raise 500 billion shillings. That is in this address. Mr. Speaker, I hope that it will be possible to work with the public-private partnerships, investors, to be able to raise the 500 billion shillings. My office, if I'm approved by this House, will remain open to members of Parliament and make sure that we continue to work for the benefit of the people. And I know that in terms of the legislature and the executive, if the relationship is improved, enhanced, and that we ensure that there is a logical, prudent, reasonable working relationship, we can be able to make a difference. We can be able to deliver to the people, noting that where we are as a country, nobody is very proud of the fact that the country is on its knees literally, and that we all need to work very hard. The people of Kandara, Your Excellency, I want to finalize with that, are a bit anxious, fairly anxious. I know that they expected a 5-year term from me, having elected me with quite a good number of votes, and that right now I know campaigns are ongoing. I will be having an opportunity, I'm sure, to seek approval of my constituents to be able to move to the next office. And I know that truly they would have wanted me to serve another term. I do not take it for granted that they gave me that term. I'll be consulting them. We shall be engaging even before I come to appear before the relevant committee. Thank you for listening to me, members. See you. I am here until you get me out of here. I'll be coming here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member for Kandara.
Order number 3, messages.
Honorable members, I have a communication to make, rather a message to deliver, and a ruling that follows our debate earlier in the week. Honorable members, this is a message on the nomination of persons for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, Secretary to the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. Honorable members, Standing Order 42.1 relating to messages from the President provides that the Speaker shall read to the House any message from the President delivered to the Speaker for communication to the House. In this regard, I wish to convey to the House that I have received a message from His Excellency the President notifying the nomination of various persons for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, Secretary to the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. Honorable members, in the message, His Excellency the President conveys that in exercise of powers conferred on him by Article 152(2), 154(2), and 156(2) of the Constitution, as read together with Sections 3 and 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, he has nominated various persons for appointment to the aforementioned offices. For clarity, these provisions of the Constitution state as follows: 152, Cabinet. The President shall nominate and, with the approval of the National Assembly, appoint Cabinet Secretaries. 154, Secretary to the Cabinet. The Secretary to the Cabinet shall be nominated and, with the approval of the National Assembly, appointed by the President. 156, the Attorney General. The Attorney General shall be nominated by the President and, with the approval of the National Assembly, appointed by the President. Honorable members, the names of persons submitted to this House for approval to be appointed as Cabinet Secretaries are as follows. 1. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, Office of the Prime Cabinet Minister. 2. Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior and National Administration. 3. Professor Njuguna Ndungu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. 4. The Honorable Alice Wahome, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. 5. Honorable Aden Duale, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Defense. 6. Ms. Rebecca Miano, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of East African Community and ASALS and Regional Development. 7. Honorable Alfred Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. 8. Honorable Aisha Jumwa Katana, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. 9. Honorable Moses Kiarie Kuria, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry. 10. Honorable Soipani Tuya, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Environment and Forestry. 11. Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Roads, Transport and Public Works. Can the members at the bar take their seats, please? The Honorable Penina Malonza, OGW, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. 13, Mr. Sakaraya Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. 14, Susan Nahumicha Wafula, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Health. 15, Honorable Mithika Linduri, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. 16, Mr. Eliud Owalo, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. 17, Honorable Ezekiel Machogu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education. 18, Mr. Davis Chirchir, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. 19, Honorable Ababu Namwamba, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts. 20, Mr. Simon Chelugui, EGH. Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSME Development. 21, Honorable Salim Mvuria, EGH. Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, the Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. 22, Honorable Florence Borre. Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Honorable members, in the message, HE, the President also conveys that he has nominated the Honorable Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi, EGH, as the Attorney General and Ms. Mercy Wanjau as Secretary to the Cabinet. His Excellency the President now seeks the approval of the National Assembly on the nominees for appointment to the said offices. Honorable members, as you are aware, the Committee on Appointments is yet to be constituted, despite the provisions of Standing Order 2042 requiring that the committee be appointed within 7 days on assembly of a new house. This has been occasioned by the fact that the House Business Committee, which is yet to be formed, on account of the question of the leadership of the majority party and the minority party, which I'll just rule on after this. It is in the House Business Committee, which is charged with the responsibility of nominating members to sit in the Committee on Appointments, save for the slots reserved for the leadership of the House. Honorable members, having resolved the stalemate in a short time to come, we will then move to the next level to process these appointments. Honorable members, Section 8 of the Public Appointments Act 2012 provides, unless otherwise provided in law, the committee to which such nomination is referred shall consider the matter and table a report in the House within 28 days. It is therefore imperative that the Committee on Appointments, once formed, immediately commences the process of consideration of the nominees to enable speedy conclusion of the vetting process within the set timelines. I will also direct the Clerk of the National Assembly to take the necessary steps and notify the nominees and the general public through an advertisement in the daily newspapers of national circulation and on the parliamentary website of the time and place of holding the approval hearings. This should be done by Friday, tomorrow, the 7th of October 2022, following which the Committee on Appointments should commence the approval hearings. The committee is expected to table its report in the House on or before Tuesday, the 27th October 2022. In accordance with the law, the House will be required to consider the committee's report and make a decision on the nominees within 7 days following tabling of the report. That is on or before 3rd of November 2022. The House is accordingly guided. Thank you. Honorable members, can the members at the bar take their seats? Honorable members, the following is a ruling on a matter that has been contested before this House, a matter that has been contested in correspondence with my office, and a matter that has taken center stage in the public media on the issue of leadership of the National Assembly in the 13th Parliament. And here I go. Honorable members, you will recall that during the afternoon sitting of Tuesday, 4th October 2022, I did inform the House that a question had arisen on the manner of constituting the House Business Committee. especially with regard to the membership reserved for the leaders and the whips of the majority party and the minority party, respectively. In guiding the House on the business to be transacted before the establishment of the House Business Committee and the manner in which the business would be moved, I did indicate that a question had arisen as to who the bona fide leader of the majority party in the House is. I proceeded to allow the House to address me on this matter and gave priority to the designated party leaders and whips of the Kenya Kwanza coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party. In the debate that ensued, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah tabled various coalition agreements entered into by the constituent parties of the Kenya Kwanza coalition and deposited with the Registrar of Political Parties. The Honorable Silvanus Osoro also tabled letters relating to the matter as excerpt of the minutes of the parliamentary group meeting and a list of attendees of the meeting during which the party leaders were elected. Similarly, honorable members, the Honorable Opio Wandai tabled a copy of a letter dated 7th September 2022 from the Registrar of Political Parties addressed to the Clerk of the National Assembly, conveying what the Registrar termed as constituent parties of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, the name of one party which was not affiliated to any coalition, and an indication of parties that had filed constitutional petitions and objections on their membership of the Azimio coalition. Honorable members, while contributing to the debate, the Honorable Junaid Mohammed also tabled what he claimed to be the coalition agreement entered into between the constituent parties of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. Several other members also weighed in on the matter, including the Honorable Member for Garissa Town, Adan Duale, nominated member, the Honorable John Badi, the member for Ugenya, the Honorable David Ocheng, the member for Tiati, the Honorable William Kamket, the member for Kimilili, the Honorable Didmas Baraza, the member for Kadhiani, the Honorable Robert Mbui, the member for Inakoi, the Honorable Samuel Chepkonga, the member for Embakasi East, the Honorable Babo Wino, the member for Kiharu, the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, nominated member, the Honorable Sabina Chege, the member for Kibwezi West, the Honorable Mwengi Mutuse, the member for Mandera North, the Honorable Bashir Abdullahi, the member for Laikipia North, the Honorable Sarah Korere, the member for Ganze, the Honorable Kenneth Kazungu Charo, the member for Alego Songa, the Honorable Samuel Atandi. Other honorable members who spoke on the matter include the member for Tinderet, the Honorable Julius Meli, the member for Kilifi North, the Honorable Owen Bayer, the member for Kabondo Kaspul, the Honorable Eva Obara, the member for Kangundo, the Honorable Fabian Muli, the member for Dagoretti South, the Honorable John Kiarie, the member for Embakasi South, the Honorable Julius Mawade, the member for Kiminini, the Honorable Bisao Kakai, the member for Mhaya, the Honorable Omboko Milemba, the member for Taraka, the Honorable George Murugara, the member for Dagoretti North, the Honorable Beatrice Elachi, and at the conclusion of the debate, I reserved my considered ruling for today. There are many other members who came up on a point of order. I need not mention them. On the onset, honorable members, permit me to amplify a portion of the contribution made by the Honorable John Badi, in which is key to the resolution of this matter. The Hansard records the Honorable Badi as having said that there is no contention over which members constitute the leadership of both the Kenya Kwanza coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. The only contention that exists and which formed the basis of the debate which ensued is over which of the two is the majority. Honorable members, Article 108 of the Constitution establishes the offices of party leaders in Parliament and outlines the order of precedence to be observed in the National Assembly. The article provides as follows. There shall be a leader of the majority party and a leader of the minority party. The leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or a coalition of parties. The leader of the minority party shall be the person who is the leader of the in the National Assembly of the second largest party or a coalition of parties. The following order of precedence shall be observed in the National Assembly. That is Sub-Article 4 of 108. The Speaker of the National Assembly, the leader of the majority party, and the leader of the minority party. Honorable members, what is clear from the Constitution is that the leader of the majority party must lead either a party or a coalition of parties in the National Assembly. I invite the House to note my emphasis on the word either. Honorable members, Article 92 of the Constitution mandates Parliament to enact legislation on various aspects of political parties. To this end, the Political Parties Act 2011 was enacted. This law has been amended severally, including as late as February this year. Honorable members, you will note that Section 2 of the Political Parties Act 2011 defines a political party as an association of citizens with an identifiable ideology or program that is constituted for the purpose of influencing public policy or nominating candidates to contest elections. The term is further defined to include a coalition political party. Under the same section, a coalition is defined as an alliance of two or more political parties formed for the purpose of pursuing a common goal and is governed by a written agreement deposited with the registrar. On the other hand, honorable members, a coalition political party is defined as a coalition that is registered by the registrar as a political party. Interestingly, Section 10(1) of the Act allows two or more political parties to form a coalition or a coalition political party before or after an election on condition that they deposit a coalition agreement with the registrar. Honorable members, what I discern from these definitions of Section 10(1) of the Act is that Parliament, in its wisdom, legislated as follows: that two or more political parties may form a coalition or a coalition party and deposit a written agreement with the registrar. Further, that a coalition of two or more parties may register itself as a political party with the registrar under the Act. You will agree with me that this legislation creates a unique and puzzling scenario where a coalition, which is a conglomeration of parties, can also be treated as a political party on its own right. Honorable members, I note that in the letter that I received from the member for Suna East, the Honorable Junaid Mohammed on this matter, he submitted names of leaders representing the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. Curiously, in the same letter, the honorable member signed off as Secretary General of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. This begs the question of whether Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition is a coalition, political party, or both. In the debate over this matter, several members argued that a coalition political party is a perfectly legal vehicle that was used in the just concluded election to allow individual and corporate membership within a coalition. In my understanding of Section 2 and Section 10 of the Political Parties Act, Parliament permitted a coalition political party to elect to assume the character of either a party or a coalition. Honorable members, in the last general election, it is evident that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya elected to behave as several political parties in certain categories of elections, and as one political party with regard to the election of the president. It is without doubt that if it were to be considered as a political party, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party has no elected member in this House today, as no member was elected under its banner. This is easily discernible from Gazette notices number 9950 and 9951 of 2022, both dated 23rd August 2022, and Gazette notices number 10535 of 2022, dated 5th September 2022, in which the IEBC, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, declare the persons duly elected as members of this House and their respective political parties. Further, honorable members, it is notable that with respect to the members nominated to this House, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party elected to nominate members under the names of its constituent parties. This can be seen from the Gazette notice number 10537 of 2022, dated 7 September 2022, and Gazette notice number 10710 of 2022, dated 9 September 2022. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party seems to have elected to enter this House in both elective and nominative positions through its individual constituent parties. It is a clear demonstration of the coalition party's respect for freedom of association under Article 36 of the Constitution, which exercise of political rights under Article 38 of the Constitution, and the freedom of speech and debate in the House under Article 117 of the Constitution. Honorable members, Article 108 of the Constitution also allows a coalition to elect and designate their choice of the leader of the majority party. The claim by the Kenya Kwanza coalition is based under this limb. Similarly, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party has staked its claim to the leadership of the majority party in exercise of its second skin as a coalition. Honorable members, what is clear from the Constitution is that the leader of the majority party must lead either a party or a coalition of parties in the National Assembly, and not both. Indeed, I noted earlier in this communication, in determining the matter confronting the House today, one must ask the question whether the entities claiming the leadership of the majority party are parties or coalitions. The provision of the Constitution seems not to envisage the position of the leader of the majority party being claimed by an entity that is both a party and a coalition of parties. It is apparent that, honorable members, while the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party elected to behave as a political party in certain categories of elections in the last general election, it has now staked its claim to the leadership of the majority party in this House, using its second skin as a coalition. The issue that arises at this stage is whether this conduct is in conformity with the expectation of Article 108 of the Constitution, which requires an entity to elect one of the two choices. You will recall that before the Sindie adjournment of the 12th Parliament, the standing orders were amended to insert a new standing order 2B. This provision requires the clerk of the National Assembly to obtain a certified copy of any coalition agreement entered into between two or more political parties. This amendment was necessitated by a dispute that arose at the beginning of the 12th Parliament on the entitlement of the constituent parties of the then National Super Alliance Coalition, commonly referred to as NASA Coalition, to a share in the membership of the Parliamentary Service Commission. It was not possible for the then Speaker to resolve the issue without access to and perusal of the then NASA Coalition's agreement deposited with the registrar. Apart from resolving any disputes related to the membership of the Parliamentary Service Commission, It would interest members to note that pursuant to Article 2152 of the Constitution, part of the membership of the Commission on Revenue Allocation is also drawn from nominees of the majority party and the minority parties in the House. This is the basis upon which the standing order was introduced in the last Parliament so as to enable the Speaker to discern the undertakings made by the parties with regard to the positions available to the House. The sharing of nominees for appointment to commissions such as the Parliamentary Service Commission and the Commission on Revenue Allocation, entitlement to positions in the East African Legislative Assembly, and where necessary, determining the relative majorities in the House. Journals of the House indicate that this provision was hardly intended to be used to resolve questions of which party or coalition of parties has sufficient numbers in this House so as to be entitled to elect the leader of the majority party. Honorable members, the Political Parties Act provides a general framework for the formation of coalitions, but leaves the substantive provisions to the formulation of the respective parties to a coalition. Where the substantive provisions of a coalition agreement are unclear, ambiguous, or are in contention, the interpretation of the intent of the parties is left to the general jurisdiction of the legal system. Nevertheless, honorable members, perusal of an agreement entered between the partners in a coalition would greatly assist, resolve, or forestall unnecessary disputes likely to impede the conduct of the business of the House. Indeed, upon obtaining a copy of the NASA coalition agreement, my immediate predecessor did urge that the provision of the coalition agreements to the House should become standard practice. This is what informed the introduction of new Standing Order 2B in our rules of procedure. Honorable members, with regard to the coalition agreements affecting the affairs of the 13th Parliament, the clerk did write to the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties on 2nd September 2022. In her letter, entitled Request for Information and Copies of Coalition Agreements pursuant to the National Assembly Standing Order 2B, the clerk provided the registrar with a list of parties with representation in the House at the time. The clerk sought the following from the registrar, and I quote, guidance on which particular political parties from the list above are in coalition arrangements, please include the date of the registration of the coalitions. 2, information on changes made to any of the coalition agreements or partnerships that are in place and the dates of the changes, if any. And 3, certified copies of the coalition arrangements entered into by any of the parties listed herein. Honorable members, in response, the registrar noted that at 21st April 2022, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party comprised 26 political parties, namely Jubilee Party, JP, Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, Wiper Democratic Movement, WDM, Kenya African National Union, KANU, National Rainbow Coalition, NAC, National Rainbow Coalition Kenya, NAC Kenya, Muungano Party, Maendeleo Chap Party, Democratic Action Party, DAP-K, Devolution Empowerment Party, United Party of Independent Alliance, United Democratic Movement, UDM, United Progressive Alliance, UPA, Pamoja African Alliance, PAA or PA, Kenya Union Party, KUP, United Democratic Party, UDP, Movement for Democracy and Growth, MDG, Kenya Reform Party, KRP, Chama cha Uzalendo, CCU, National Liberal Party, NLP, People's Trust Party, PTP, Ubuntu People's Forum, UPF, Party of National Unity, PNU, Labour Party of Kenya, LPK, and the Party for Growth and Prosperity. In the same letter, according to the registrar, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance comprises 15 political parties, with the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, Amani Congress, National Congress, ANC, Forum for Restoration of Democracy Kenya, Ford Kenya, Chama cha Kazi, Communist Party of Kenya, CPK, the Service Party, TSP, Tuchibebe wa Kenya Party, Farmers Party, Devolution Party of Kenya, Economic Freedom Party, and the Umoja na Maendeleo Party as members of the coalition as of 3rd June 2022. Can the members take their seats? Honorable members, the letter further notes that the Democratic Party, the National Agenda Party of Kenya, the Grand Dream Development Party, and Chama cha Mashinani effectively became members of the coalition on 5th September 2022. The registrar also observed that the National Ordinary People Empowerment Union, NOPEU, is not a member of any of the coalitions. Honorable members, in the letter, the registrar also conveys that Maendeleo Chapter Party, Pamoja African Alliance Party, PA, United Democratic Movement, UDM, and Movement for Democracy and Growth, MDG, have filed constitutional petitions and or objections with regard to their membership of Azimio coalition. It is notable that despite the written request by the Clerk of the National Assembly, the registrar did not convey certified copies of any pre-election or post-election coalition agreement entered into by the parties with the representation in this House in the response to the letter dated 7 September 2022. May I at this juncture, honorable members, report to the House that surprisingly, the registrar today morning at 8:30 a.m. submitted to me through the office of the clerk documents said to be the certified copies of the coalition agreements for the Kenya Kwanza Alliance Coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. Curiously, whereas the registrar's letter to the clerk for the National Assembly is dated 3rd October 2022, the accompanying agreements bear a certification of the following day, which is 4th October 2022. The letter and the documents were delivered to the office of the clerk today, the 6th October 2022, more than 6 weeks after the request by the clerk. Seemingly, this may be read by any reasonable person to be a reaction to the proceedings of the House on Tuesday, 4th October 2022. Nevertheless, I have had occasion to peruse the documents accompanying the letter as against the documents tabled in the House on Tuesday this week. Despite attempting to advise the House on the status of the coalition agreements affecting the composition of the House as at 3rd October 2022, the registrar has again failed to mention the existence of any post-election coalition agreements. This is a glaring omission when viewed against the post-election coalition agreements tabled by the member for Kikuyu constituency during the proceedings. The post-election coalition agreements are critical to the Speaker for purposes of guaranteeing the constitutional rights and political freedoms of the members of this House elected under UDM, PA, MCCP, and MDG. Honorable members, this now brings me to the submissions made by the Honorable Opio Wandai on the significance to be attached to the response of the registrar of political parties, which he also tabled in the House on Tuesday this week, and in subsequent communication from the registrar. It will be recalled, honorable members, that the distinguished member for Ugunja submitted that the Speaker has no other role apart from conveying information contained in the letter by the Registrar to the House. You will agree with me that this view is untenable for two main reasons. First, Section 10 of the Political Parties Act 2011 is clear that coalitions are not cast in stone but are an evolving arrangements which can occur both prior to and after election. The Registrar has shied away from making a determination on the post-election status of the existing coalitions in light of the submissions made by part of the membership of this House and letters written to me by a number of members relating to post-election coalitions. The Speaker ought not to be a conduit for this indecision insofar as it has the potential of curtailing the business of the House, which is an important constitutional arm of the national government. Secondly, you'll also agree with me, honorable members, that the assertion by the honorable member for Gunja is flawed on account of the history I have given on the House relating to the rationale of introducing Standing Order 2B. It is indeed an established parliamentary practice that the Speaker is not a mere conveyor belt of information. The Speaker must apply his mind to any communication or document before it is presented to the House or admitted for use in the House. This is important in order to comply with the standing orders of this House and to protect the dignity of the House. Honorable members, in the present instance, Standing Order 2B expressly requires the clerk to obtain a certified copy of any coalition agreement to assist the Speaker to ascertain the relative majorities of the House and facilitate the transaction of the business of the House. Certification of the document and determination of its veracity and admissibility is of prime importance. You will agree with me again, honorable members, that there would be chaos in this House if I was to make rulings on the basis of unauthenticated and verifiable and inadmissible documents that affect the rights of members. Honorable members, I do note that unless the Political Parties Act is amended or the House exercises its powers to call for evidence under Article 125 of the Constitution, there currently exists no express statutory obligation to the Registrar to furnish the House with the coalition agreements as contemplated under Standing Order 2B. As a matter of fact, the 12th Parliament noted this particular gap and proposed amendments to the Political Parties Act, whose introduction I approved in my communication issued during the afternoon sitting of Tuesday. Those members of JLAC have a job to do to cure this lacuna. Honorable members, attempts were made by members during the afternoon sitting of Tuesday, 4th October 2022, to table coalition agreements in support of the claims by the Kenya Kwanza Coalition and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. You will recall that I ruled the documents tabled by the Honorable Junet Mohammed as inadmissible owing to the inconsistencies that were apparent on the face of the document. The inconsistencies were glaring, especially in light of allegations made by the Honorable David Ocheng's denouncing association of both himself and his party with the coalition political party. Apart from being a member of this House, the Honorable David Ocheng is also the party leader of the Movement for Democracy and Growth, an alleged party to the document tabled by the Honorable Junet Mohammed. In light of the objections raised by the Honorable David Ocheng, the document became a center of particular focus with respect to its legality, validity, and admissibility. The attempt by the Registrar of Political Parties to convey what is said to be a certified copy of the document tabled by the Honorable Junet Mohammed on the 6th October 2022, that's today, has not made things any better, as the document from the Registrar, just like the document tabled by the Honorable Junet Mohammed, has the same glaring gaps and inconsistencies that make it inadmissible. The question of admissibility of papers laid in this House has been addressed severally by my predecessors. In the most recent case, the Honorable Justin Muturi distilled previous guidance on the admissibility of documents into 9 brief rules in a communication issued on Tuesday, 10th May 2022, while ruling on the tabling of papers by the then member for Wajir County, the Honorable Fatuma Gedi. The then Speaker ruled that in assessing the admissibility and/or authenticity or otherwise of a document tabled in the House, the Speaker ought to examine whether the document, 1, relates to the matter for which it has been tabled, 2, is signed, and if it is a government document, by the authorized person or persons, 3, bears the emblem or logo of the institution or person from which it originated or coat of arms in the case of documents from government agencies, 4, clearly indicates the author and person to whom it is addressed, 5, discloses the origin or source of the document, 6, bears certification where a document other than the original is being tabled, 7, if electronic has been obtained from a source that does not permit alteration of content, and 8 is related to a claim made before the House or a committee or its content has a nexus with the claim. 9 is stamped and clearly indicates the person signing of the stamp. Honorable members, can the honorable members take their seats? Honorable members, a perusal of the document tabled by the Honorable Junaid Mohammed and the version conveyed by the Registrar of Political Parties reveals glaring inconsistencies in both documents. With regard to signatures, there is no uniformity in the manner in which the various pages of the documents have been signed off or initialed. Some pages in the documents contain fewer signatures than others, while page 3 of both documents in particular contain signatures that are hardly visible. The pagination of the 2 documents is also inconsistent. Order, honorable members. The pagination of the 2 documents is also inconsistent. Page 1 to 22 bear page numbers. Several pages with signatures bear no page numbers, and a paginated page appears randomly between unpaginated pages. I'm inclined to think that these are superimpositions. Honorable members, may I at this point bring to the attention of the House that several members say to belong to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party have formally written to my office to denounce the association with the party. In a letter dated 9th September 2022 and received by my office on 22nd September 2022, the member for Ugenya constituency, the Honorable David Ocheng, wrote to convey the decision of his party, the Movement for Democracy and Growth, to terminate its membership with the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. In the letter, the Honorable Ocheng also noted that his party is now a member of Kenya Kwanza Coalition. Honorable members, in letters received by my office on 21st and 22nd September 2022, the Honorable Kenneth Charo, the Honorable Gonzi Rai, and the Honorable Anton Kenga, who were all elected to Parliament on the Pamoja African Alliance party ticket, formally distanced themselves and their party from any association with the Azimio coalition. The 3 categorically noted that their party should only be associated with the Kenya Kwanza coalition, with which it has entered into its only existing coalition agreement. Additionally, honorable members, in a letter dated 16 September 2022 and received by my office on 19 September 2022, all the 7 members of parliament elected to the National Assembly under the United Democratic Movement, UDM, namely the Honorable Major Retired Bashir Abdullahi, the Honorable Hassan Kulo, the Honorable Haro Abdul Ibrahim, the Honorable Mangale Chiforomodo, the Honorable Yusuf Aden Haji, the Honorable Joseph Lekuton, the Honorable Omulkhair Kasim, and the Honorable Suleha Harun, again distance themselves and their party from any alleged coalition agreement with the Azimio coalition. Instead, they note in their letter that they are party to a post-election coalition agreement with the Kenya Kwanza coalition. It is their contention that their affiliation with the Kenya Kwanza coalition has seemingly been ignored by the registrar of political parties. Honorable members, it will be recalled that during the debate on this matter on Tuesday this week, the Honorable Cheng, the Honorable Kasait Kamket, the Honorable Mwengi Mutuse, the Honorable Bashir Abdullahi, and the Honorable Kenneth Charo also did raise serious concerns as to the membership of the Movement for Democracy and Growth MDG, the Kenya African National Union KANU, the Maendeleo Chapter Party MCCP, the United Democratic Movement UDM, and the Pamoja African Alliance Party in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. At this stage, honorable members, the question that comes to my mind as your speaker is, what am I meant to do with these contentions? Honorable members, allegations were also made by a number of members on alleged coercion and duress while entering into agreements with one of the coalitions. This, all the honorable members, I have not finished what I'm saying. This, if true, is a serious affront to the democratic rights and freedoms that we enjoy as citizens of this country. As a seasoned lawmaker and a lawyer, I note that the political freedoms granted to Kenyans by the Bill of Rights must be taken very seriously in the affairs of political parties. If I were to rely on the coalition agreements tabled before this House, I would find great fault in any provision seeking to limit the political rights of members of this House. Honorable members, our Constitution is very rights-centric. In any ruling I make as your Speaker, I must be guided by the provisions of Article 3, Article 10, and Article 21 of the Constitution. These provisions require me to uphold, respect, and defend the Constitution whenever applying myself on any questions brought before me. I'm also under obligation to jealously protect the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution to all members of this House and indeed all Kenyans. You will note, honorable members, that even when making laws, all of you are enjoined under Article 24 of the Constitution to ensure that any limits you place on a right or freedom are expressly stated and that the limitation is reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society. Having looked at the drafting style of the Political Parties Act vis-a-vis the requirements of Article 24(2) of the Constitution, it is evident that the Political Parties Act does not manifest or declare any intent whatsoever to limit the rights guaranteed under Article 36 of the Constitution on the freedom of association and Article 38 of the Constitution on political rights. Honorable members, political rights are not absolute. They may be limited in a manner that is consistent with the provisions of Article 24 of the Constitution. Indeed, the Political Parties Act does not engage in the substantive limitations of rights, but only deals with procedural exercise of those rights in terms of timelines. Honorable members, indeed, the architecture of the Act is that timelines are only prescribed with respect to activities that fall before the election date, which seem to be related to the management of the election calendar. There are no timelines prescribed for activities after the election date. From the provisions of the Act, it appears that a person is at liberty to join and leave political parties as long as they notify the registrar of their actions. Honorable members, I'm not sure whether a provision of a coalition agreement regulating the period within which a member may exit a coalition would pass the test of being compliant with the Political Parties Act in the first instance, or the Constitution, or the Constitution in the second instance. Fortunately, that is not for me to decide. I trust those who are aggrieved will find their way to courts of law in exercise of their powers under Article 165 of the Constitution. Honorable members, noting that some of the matters raised were said to be pending either in the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal or the court, I shall refrain from pronouncing myself on such. Honorable members, let me now turn to the nexus between the letter from the Registrar of Political Parties and the several Gazette notices published by the IEBC with respect to your election or nomination as members of this House. Based on Gazette notices 9950 and 9951 of 2022, both dated 23rd August 2022, Gazette Notice 10535 of 2022, dated 5th September 2022, Gazette Notice number 10537 of 2022, dated 7th September 2022, and Gazette Notice number 10710 of 2022, dated 9th September 2022, the current composition of the National Assembly by individual political parties is as follows. United Democratic Alliance, UDA, 145. Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, 86. Jubilee Political Party, 28. Wiper Democratic Movement, 26. United Democratic Movement, 8. Amani National Congress, 8. Ford Kenya, 6. Kenya African National Union, KANU, 6. Democratic Alliance, part of Kenya, 5. Pamoja African Alliance, PA, 3. Kenya Union Party, 3. United Party of Independent Alliance, UPIA, 2. Maendeleo Chap, 2. The Service Party, TSP, 2. United Progressive Alliance Party, UPA, 1. National Alliance Party of Kenya, NAPK, 1. National Ordinary People Empowerment Union, NOPEU, 1. Grand Dream Development Party, 1. Democratic Party, DP, 1. Movement for Democracy and Growth, MDG, 1. Chama cha Mashinani, 1. Honorable members, reference to the letter by the Registrar of Political Parties will give the cumulative number of the members of the constituent parties of what the Registrar refers to as the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party as 171 members and against 165 members of the constituent parties of what the Registrar refers to as the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. However, it is notable that a total of 14 members are drawn from 4 parties, that is UDM, MDG, MCP, and PA, who according to the letter of the Registrar have filed constitutional petitions and objections against their membership in Azimio. This implies that the letter from the Registrar may not be used to compute the membership of the majority and minority parties by dint of the admission contained in it on the existing constitutional petitions and objections. Honorable members, it will also be recalled that the members of UDM, MDG, MCCP, and PA have claimed they signed pre-election and post-election coalition agreements with the Kenya Kwanza Alliance Coalition. Cumulatively, the membership of the 4 parties in this House is 14. If these members were to be added to the 165 members of the initial constituent parties of Kenya Kwanza Coalition, the coalition would comprise a total of 179 members. Consequently, the Azimio coalition would then, I have not finished this ruling at all. Order, members. If you listen, I'm sure the Honorable Mbandi, you know the difference between if and when. I'm sure you know the difference between if and when. Consequently, the Azimio coalition would then comprise a total of 157 members. However, honorable members, the pending constitutional cases and objections by members of UDM, MDG, MCCP, and PA, noted by the registrar of political parties in addition to the letters sent by the members and the contentions recorded during Tuesday's sitting, have a profound bearing on the matter at hand insofar as the same relates to the business of the House. At this stage, honorable members, the House has a choice to either hold its proceedings and await the determination of matters that are before the political parties disputes tribunal or the courts, or to permit the Speaker to make a decision that facilitates this House to continue discharging its constitutional functions. In any event, all the honorable members, you will hear the Speaker in silence. In any event, members are aware that the sub judice rule is a rule that the House imposes on itself. It can never be contemplated that the House can curtail the performance of its own mandate. Can the honorable members at the bar take their seats? Yes. Honorable members, take your seats or take your walk. I've given you. Okay, honorable members, as this includes, among others, the formation of not only the House Business Committee, but also other key committees of the House, whose membership must be appointed within a prescribed timeline of 7 days, and others that are extremely critical to the functioning of this House and the national government. Honorable members, the committees that ought to be constituted within 7 days include the following: the House Business Committee, which determines, prioritizes, approves the business to be considered by this House under Standing Order 171. The Committee on Selection, which is responsible for nominating members to serve in committees under Standing Order 172. The Committee on Appointments, which is responsible for vetting of persons nominated to serve as Cabinet Secretaries under Article 152(2) of the Constitution. The Budget and Appropriations Committee, which is responsible for consideration of the budget estimates. The National Government Constituencies Development Fund Committee, which is responsible for overseeing the policy and legislative framework matters relating to NGCDF. This is especially important, noting the need for a forum to deliberate some current matters that you are all fully aware of. Honorable members, the disclosure by the registrar relating to the petitions and objections, the letters by the members of the four parties, the oral objections raised in this House, and the need to promote the continuity of the business of the House while respecting the due process of the courts of law, presents this House with a complex situation that requires balanced consideration of the intent and the philosophy behind the provisions of Article 108 and Article 124 of the Constitution. Honorable members, in determining this delicate balance between the provisions that establishes the leadership positions of the House and the provisions which empowers this House to make its own rules of procedure, due regard must be given to Article 3 of the Constitution, which requires all persons to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution, and Article 10 of the Constitution, which requires one to apply the national values and principles of governance when interpreting the Constitution. Honorable members, I note that the four parties that I mentioned cumulatively comprise 14 members. The members elected this House under the four parties have exercised their freedom of association under Article 36 of the Constitution. They have already migrated to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance both in writing and in action. The parties are already enjoying the benefits accruing from their membership of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, based on the coalition agreements that they signed and deposited with the registrar. Indeed, honorable members, as noted earlier, the 14 members have written to me, distancing themselves and their parties from the Azimio coalition, and have called upon the Speaker to recognize their coalition agreement with Kenya Kwanza with respect to the business of this House. I also did note the verbal representation made by the 14 members during the debate on Tuesday, the 4th of October. Honorable members, I started by noting the sentiments of the Honorable John Badi on the fact that the members comprising the leadership of Kenya Kwanza Coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party was not in contention. Indeed, no objection was raised during the debate on the issue of either proposing an alternative lineup or the alluding to the existence of any other coalition comprising any parties with the representation in this House. Having addressed the question of who between the Kenya Kwanza Coalition and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition is entitled to appoint the leader of the majority party, allow me to discharge my responsibilities under Standing Order 19A4 and 24 with respect to the leadership of the House in the 13th Parliament. Honorable members, allow me now to address the House on the fate of the letters from Jeremiah Kioni before I come to that point. The Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, which I mentioned in my communication on Tuesday, 4th October. The Jubilee Party, and indeed any other parliamentary party, is at liberty to designate its party leaders and whips by dint of the provisions of Standing Order 20A, which provides for the recognition of parliamentary parties. Specifically, the Standing Order provides that a parliamentary party has the right to designate a leader and whip of the party in the House for purposes of the transaction of the business of the House. However, in parliamentary practice, the House frowns upon any purported communication emanating from strangers, especially if the matter relates to the internal organization of sections within the House. This is intended to ensure that the House only deals with persons that it can interact with and hold to account should need arise. For clarity, Standing Order 28.3 provides, and I quote, the names of the members designated as party whips shall be communicated to the Speaker in writing by the leader of the majority party on behalf of the majority party, by the leader of the minority party on behalf of the minority party, and the leader of a parliamentary party in the National Assembly in a case of a parliamentary party that is not part of the coalition forming the majority party or the minority party. In order to facilitate the transaction of the business of the House, the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party are required to forward to me the names of members who shall sit in the 5 critical committees that I mentioned earlier. Honorable members, Standing Order 1711F provides that apart from the House leadership, the House Business Committee consists of 9 other members nominated by the parliamentary parties, reflecting the relative majorities and taking into consideration the interests of parties other than parliamentary parties and independents. Furthermore, honorable members, Standing Order 1711C provides that besides the House leadership, the Committee on Selection consists of not less than 11 and not more than 21 members nominated by the parliamentary parties, reflecting the relative majorities and taking into consideration the interests of parties other than parliamentary parties and independence. Standing Order 2041 provides that apart from the leadership of the House, Committee on Appointments consists of not more than 15 other members nominated by the House Business Committee on the basis of proportional party membership, taking into account consideration the numerical strength of the parties and interests of independents. Honorable members, upon formation of the committees on selection, I will be asking the party leadership to nominate members for appointment to the rest of the committees within particular priority to the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the National Government Constituency Development Fund Committee. It is imperative that in nominating the members of the committees, majority and minority leaders should, as much as possible, take into account and consideration the gender representation, the need for national balance, and the interests of parties other than parliamentary parties, and indeed the independents. As to the completeness of the membership of the aforementioned committees, you will note that I have reserved some slots for independent members in each of the 3 committees whose nomination ratios I have specified. This is to ensure adherence to the standing orders, which require the recognition of the various shades of opinion represented in the House. As my predecessor noted in the 12th Parliament, the Speaker should protect the independent members and small parties in the nomination to and discharge from committees. Honorable members, in summary, therefore, my considered determination on the matter raised is as follows. 1. Alleged coercion. That the consideration of the various allegations of coercion and duress at the time of entering into coalition agreements and an appropriate remedy for the same lies outside the authority of this House. 2, the place of members of UDM, PA, MCCP, and MDG. That in my considered opinion, it would be imprudent to treat the 14 members elected to the House under the UDM, Pamoja African Alliance, Maendeleo Chap, and the Movement for Democracy and Growth, MDG, as part of a coalition that they have expressly distanced themselves from and their parties. I am therefore persuaded that the 14 members and their parties are part of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. This, in my view, would be fair and in accordance with the previous rulings by my predecessors on related matters. 3, that with the 14 members, the membership of the Kenya Kwanza coalition stands at 179 members, while the membership of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party stands at 157 members. This, by implication, indicates that the Kenya Kwanza coalition is the majority party, and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party is the minority party in this House. 4, that the Kenya Kwanza coalition is entitled to appoint the leader of the majority party, while the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party is entitled to appoint the leader of the minority party. Consequent upon the foregoing, honorable members, the leadership of the majority party will be as follows. The member for Kikuyu constituency, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Can the members take their seats? The member for Kilifi North, the Honorable Owen Baya, is the deputy leader of the majority party. The member for South Mugirango, the Honorable Silvanos Osoro, is the majority party whip. The member for Marsabit County, the Honorable Naomi Jilo Wako, is the deputy majority whip. Leadership of the minority party. That with regard to the minority party, the member for Ugunja, the Honorable Opio Wandai, is the leader of the minority party. The member for Kadiani, the Honorable Robert Mbui, is the deputy leader of the minority party. The member for Suna East, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, is the minority party whip. And the nominated member, the Honorable Sabina Chege, is the deputy minority whip. The letters from the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, I have already touched on those, and we need not bother about them. That with respect to the House Business Committee, the leader of the majority party, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, and the leader of the minority party, the Honorable Pio Wandai, are directed to submit not more than 4 members each to my office, latest by 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 11th October 2022. That with respect to the composition of the Committee on Selection, the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party are to submit 10 members and 9 members respectively to my office by the same date. That composition of the Committee on Appointments, that with respect to the composition of the Committee on Appointments, the leader of the majority party, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, MP, and the leader of the minority party, the Honorable Pio Wandai, MP, are to submit not more than 7 members each to my office latest 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 11th October 2022. That upon receipt of the names of the members of the House Business Committee, the clerk is hereby directed to cause the list to be published in the order paper on Tuesday, 11th October 2022. The clerk is also directed to ensure that the names of the members to serve in the Committee on Selection and the Committee on Appointments are presented to the House Business Committee when the committee sits on Tuesday, 11th October 2022. That while it will be construed in the interim that the minority party has designated its leadership, the leader of the minority party, the Honorable Pio Wandai, MP, is hereby required to regularize the designation of the whip and the deputy whip of the minority party according with the requirements of Standing Order 20A3. Remember, previously we were notified by the Honorable Junet. It's actually now the Honorable Wandai to notify the leadership and the Speaker on who your whips are. That with respect to any member belonging to any party other than a parliamentary party, as your Speaker, I will endeavor to ensure the power afforded to me by Standing Order 174(2)B is upheld. I will not accept or approve any list of committee membership that does not take into account the interests of independent members and parties other than parliamentary parties, the ones we commonly refer to as small parties. That pursuant to Standing Order 259, the marked seats in the front row of the chamber to my right and to my left are reserved for the persons occupying the offices of leadership of the majority party and the leadership of the minority party, respectively. That in accordance with Article 108 of the Constitution, the Parliamentary Service Act 209 and Standing Order 19, the Clerk of the National Assembly is hereby directed to take the necessary measures to facilitate the leadership of the House that has been appointed to move into their respective offices and access all other entitlements relating to their offices as has been approved by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the Parliamentary Service Commission. In conclusion, honorable members, today's guidance has been informed by my solemn duty to facilitate the continuity of the business of this House. The House will be at a standstill without a clear guidance on the leadership of the House. It is so directed. We now go back to the debate on the presidential address. Yes, the Honorable Wandai.
Yes, the Speaker, I listened keenly to your ruling on this contentious issue. Whereas, of course, I don't agree with it, I would wish to acknowledge the fact that this House operates in a quasi-judicial manner. And therefore, in line with the rules of natural justice, tenets of democracy, and established jurisprudence, I would wish to give notice that we shall be moving, Mr. Speaker, shall be moving you to review your decision. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I'll be asking you to give me opportunity to make certain submissions or to make an application for you to review your decision, which is obviously in line with the established jurisprudential practice. I will be again asking you to direct the clerk to facilitate my coalition with the certified copies of your ruling, if possible, by close of business today. Mr. Speaker, I say this with tremendous respect to your office and to the institution of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, it's important for us to establish a culture of openness, transparency, and indeed to work consciously towards entrenching democracy and the rule of law. So I will be asking you, Mr. Speaker, to allow me to make that application formally at the earliest possible opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking leave.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, in the tradition of the House and our standing orders and practice, once the Speaker makes a ruling such as the one I have made, is not subject to debate, it is not appealable, and it stands as it is. I want to take the opportunity, the Honorable Wandai and all members of the House, to salute you and thank you for the decorum that you have exhibited through the close to 1 hour that I delivered the ruling. I want to encourage the House that a decision has been made. Let the chips lie where they fell. Take up your offices, carry out a robust and vibrant oversight of the government, and make sure that public resources from taxpayers are put to good use, audit them vigorously, and make sure that you do everything possible within the law to ensure that we have a responsible parliament with both sides being responsive to the needs of the people of Kenya. There will be no further debate on this matter. You know the rules. You are all very senior members, honorable members, and the new colleagues who have come in want to learn from you, and don't give them misdirections on procedure. I want now to go to the next order that we had abandoned, to take the ruling, and I'll give the floor to the Honorable Member Abdikader Mohamud of Lagdera. On the same matter? The same Order, Honorable Member. Order, Honorable Junet. Order, Honorable Members. Honorable Junet. Order, Honorable Junet. I have given direction. The ruling of the chair is a public document. It will be on the parliamentary website. You can get it in the course of the evening or tomorrow, depending on what the clerks will do. And you can analyze it, you can critique it, you can do many things about it except debating it on the floor of this House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I indulged the distinguished member for Ugunja, being your leader, to make a comment which he did, and we've taken it in the stride. And I've given him direction, and you can see how distinguished he is in respect of what I've said. I want to urge you members that we have called the next order which we had left before the ruling, and the member for Lagdera, if he's on the floor, he can continue the debate. If he's not, we give the floor to the next member. Go on, member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Lagdera, if you want to sit your position, we can give to somebody else.
Proceed.
Right now. Thank you.
Order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. The member for Lagdera, you will forfeit your position. You don't want to speak. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. Yes. Yes. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. It's Wanjala who grabbed the mess. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order. Give me for Tuesday. Honorable members, all honorable members, this house will stand adjourned until Tuesday. Order. The house will be adjourned until Tuesday, the 11th of October, 2022 at 2:30 p.m. Order.